I have a question for you, the viewer at home or at work, wherever you're listening to this or watching it. Why did Christian not have it in WWE? Or why does he not have it in WWE? Because there's always a chance he goes back, and I'm already fantasy booking in my head if he goes back. It's going to be the same song and dance where he just doesn't have it. Let me know in the comments your view. I'm going to tag my partner in on his view for this, but I think the evidence is clear. He just doesn't have it in WWE. Where in Impact, TNA, AEW right now, he's over as fuck. He has it. Impact from the TNA from the jump, he's tag teaming with Sting, a legend. He's winning the title. He's in feuds with Kurt Angle. He has the Christian Coalition and Angle Alliance feud. That shit was awesome. Now in AEW, he has promos for days.
Yeah.
TNT title. He beat Kenny Omega when Kenny Omega was on that crazy ass run with the titles. Clearly, he's able to be a star everywhere else. In WWE, he wasn't. From the jump, when him and Edge break up, Edge is winning King of the Ring. Christian's losing. Christian's losing the feud to Edge when they break up. Edge is winning Money in the Banks. Edge is tag teaming with Hulk Hogan on the main roster in WWE at some point. Edge is feuding with Eddie Guerrero. He's a part of the SmackDown 6. And Christian, he has a run with Lance Storm.
The Un-Americans.
Yeah, and I like Lance Storm. Did not remember that. Could not remember it at all. Then he does a little thing with DDP.
Yeah, that didn't work at all.
I forgot about that completely until actually you told me about it, and then I was reading about it again. Didn't remember it. Then he did a run with Edge. I mean, not Edge. A run with Jericho. I only remember the Trish Stratus stuff, and I remember liking that, but I didn't know there was a run with Chris Jericho that involved them before Trish Stratus,
Yeah.
that she came into it. So they were already messing around, and then she gets involved. But again, outside of WWE, he's the instant classic. He's Captain Charisma. I'm loving it. So I'm wondering, especially because I was a Lapsed fan. I was only watching TNA when he went back to WWE in around 08, 09,
Yeah. I
and
think 09.
the Del
Yeah.
Rio feud and stuff.
Yeah.
But right when he comes back, after doing all this great shit in Impact, TNA, he shows up in ECW and loses to Tommy Dreamer. Tommy fucking Dreamer, and it's 20 years after Tommy Dreamer is cool.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And that's why you have to explain to me, being a lifelong WWE fan, like, what is it? Like, why is Christian cool elsewhere and not cool in WWE?
Before I get into that, though, I just want to mention you mentioned him coming back to WWE and how great that would be. So now I need, in my head, I see a moment where he tells Dominic Mysterio that his real dad, Eddie Guerrero, is dead. So hopefully that happens one day. But to me, the simple answer for why it doesn't work in WWE is Vince just doesn't like him. Like, we've heard over the years the story of, like, Vince doesn't like his face. Vince was like, if I could just put a blue dot over his face, he'd be great.
Oh, I did not know that. He just
Yeah.
thinks like Christian's ugly or something?
Yeah, I guess. I believe Bruce Pritchard talked about that on his podcast, and there's been other stories throughout the years of people saying the same thing, that Vince just didn't like his face. I don't know if he thought he was ugly, or he didn't like his facial expressions, or he wanted to punch him in the face. I don't know. But apparently Vince didn't like his face. And everything you listed, I mean, what the stuff with Omega was, what, like last year? Or 2021. I mean, it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
One or 2 years ago. And those two, I believe they had two matches, were great. And he took a world title off of Kenny Omega, who was the best wrestler in the world probably during that time. And also around that time, right after that, for years, the two of us for sure, had talked about Josh Alexander. Like, this guy's going to be great. Christian was the one to bestow that upon him. He beat Christian for the world title. So it's like, clearly this guy's still got something left in the tank. And, he came back in the Royal Rumble in 2021 or 2020, and they didn't want to keep him. And it's got to be that Vince doesn't like him or somebody doesn't like him.
Speaking of that return to WWE, I was looking into it too because I'm like, all right, I remember his first run, and then I wasn't watching for a second run, so let me read up on it, look up on it,
Yeah.
and I knew he supposedly had a great feud with Randy Orton.
Oh yeah, those 3 or 4 matches. I don't remember the exact number, but those is in 2011. Those are some of my favorite world title matches of all time.
But he wins one of them by disqualification. Wins the title by disqualification. Was I
Yeah,
reading that? Like that's the dumbest
it
shit.
actually was actually pretty good because it was like he wins the world title from Del Rio in a ladder match and loses it almost immediately to Randy Orton. I think they had like 2 more matches after that. He can't beat Randy Orton. You get to the third one where it's if Orton gets disqualified, he loses the title. And Christian spit in his face and he went nuts and beat him up and got disqualified. That's like beautiful setup for a heel. Like then Christian's a heel world champion. And that's like I thought that was a beautiful thing to do. Like you win the title on DQ and then you just saunter out as the world champion and you don't even like acknowledge that you cheated to win essentially or you won it by disqualification. And I love that. And then that set up their no holds barred match at SummerSlam, which is underrated match.
I like that. I didn't read that he spit in his face. That's pretty cool for
Yeah,
storytelling purposes.
and it not to interrupt you, but the whole thing was he just couldn't get past Orton, and he was hitting him with everything, and Orton's kicking out of everything, so he had nothing
Yeah.
left, so he spit in his face and got Orton to black out or whatever and get disqualified. So it was a cool way to like go into a heel turn.
I would like MJF to pay homage to that storyline eventually someday.
Well, I'm surprised Christian hasn't brought it back
Um,
because that was the one glory. Like that's the only like main event run he had in WWE.
and then you mentioned the ladder match, so I did take umbrage with that too when I read about it. I'm like, so he wins the title in a ladder match. He can't even go over clean,
Yeah,
Del
and it
Rio.
was Andy only won it because of Edge.
So Edge helped him win it.
Edge came out in a Jeep. I don't know why it was a Jeep, but he distracted Del Rio and came out in a Jeep, and then Christian was able to climb the ladder. So
It's like this dude doesn't need to win stuff that way. Like he's
it's
cool.
it's
Why?
almost like
He's good in the ring.
it's almost like what would have happened to Marty Jannetty if he wasn't so bad into drugs. Like Marty Jannetty never would have got out of Shawn Michaels' shadow, just like Christian can't get out of Edge's shadow in WWE.
That was something I was wondering too. Like, is it really just if him and Edge are in the same place? It's like this Marty Jannetty effect where
Yeah, it's like why give
we have
Christian,
to like one better.
why give Christian the main event when Edge is better type of deal, I think.
That's the only thing I could really think of. This Vince thing, I did not know that he thought he was ugly in
Yeah,
essence.
so it's
Like,
probably a combination of Vince doesn't like him and he can't Edge is always going to outshine him because it's clearly when he's in TNA Edge isn't around, does great. AEW Edge isn't around, does great. So if Edge goes to AEW,
that's what I'm thinking. He's probably like, nah, you can just stay in WWE.
yeah,
Like, all right. Oh, maybe he's gonna go on that Cody run. He's like, yeah, Edge, come here. And then the moment Edge signs, he's like, all right,
you
I'm
know,
back
go
to
back to
WWE.
WWE. Well, now Vince has got the ultimate power, so I don't see that happening.
All right. In the comments, let us know your view on why Christian just doesn't work in WWE.